Out on the savannah, an impala flees from a cheetah at 70 miles an hour. Every ounce of its biological machinery is mobilized for one absolute purpose: to survive the pursuit. At the exact moment the cheetah makes its final lunge, the impala collapses. To the naked eye, it appears completely dead. It has entered a state of instinctive, total paralysis. When the threat passes and the predator loses interest, the impala gets up and violently shakes. It literally trembles, physically discharging all of that massive, unspent survival energy right out of its nervous system. Seconds later, it returns to calmly grazing with the herd. It reaches a clear, dynamic equilibrium, leaving the near-death experience behind. Humans survive life-threatening events too, but we frequently carry the physical weight and debilitating anxiety of that event for decades, a condition clinically known as post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD. Wild animals routinely stare death in the face and walk away without developing PTSD because they physically complete their survival sequence. Dr. Peter Levine identifies human trauma as a physiological event, a mechanical glitch rooted deeply in the body's instinctual survival machinery. This perspective treats trauma as a breakdown in our involuntary biological responses rather than a tragedy of the mind. Levine's clinical research reveals that traumatic symptoms originate from the frozen residue of survival energy, the massive physical charge the nervous system generated to escape but failed to discharge. The symptoms we label as trauma represent the physical weight of biological energy that was never allowed to complete its cycle. Levine calls the origin of this glitch the Medusa complex. It occurs because our highly developed rational brain, the neocortex, gets confused during a threat and actively overrides our instinctual survival impulses. When the rational brain interrupts the animal body, it forces us into a third survival response: immobility or freezing. Modern culture often misinterprets this instinctive surrender as a sign of weakness. This schematic shows the mechanics of that freeze. On the outside, the body looks motionless, the brake is locked. But on the inside, the nervous system's engine is still supercharged, racing at 70 miles an hour. Flooring the accelerator and stomping on the brakes simultaneously generates immense physical friction. This difference between the inner racing nervous system and outer immobility creates a violent, compounding turbulence, a literal tornado of trapped energy. Because the survival sequence was interrupted, this internal tornado refuses to dissipate. To survive the relentless internal pressure, the organism is forced to form rigid symptoms, like chronic anxiety and depression, to contain the unreleased energy. Freezing is a biological trap where the rational brain halts the physical escape, creating the exact turbulence we label as trauma. The 1976 Chowchilla mass kidnapping case offers a documented comparison of how trapped survival energy functions in real time. 26 children were buried underground in a moving van. 25 of those children were so overwhelmed by fear that they froze. Their immobility response locked them in, resulting in debilitating long-term traumatic paralysis. But one child, Bob Barclay, emerged from that exact same underground vault without the severe long-term aftereffects that plagued the others. Barclay's response was mechanically different. He stayed in motion. He actively dug out the exit and led the others to freedom. He discharged his survival energy by fully completing his defensive action. Barclay survived intact because he allowed his nervous system to finish the escape it started. This leaves us with a critical mechanical question. If trauma is a sealed pressure cooker of trapped physical energy, how do we safely vent it years after the threat has passed? Traditional therapy often focuses on excavating old memories and reliving the emotional core of the event to find resolution. Levine's clinical work with a patient named Nancy suggests a different path. Forcing a massive, dramatic emotional catharsis can overwhelm the nervous system and re-traumatize the patient. This diagram demonstrates the alternative, a clinical process called titration. Instead of an explosive structural failure, you engage the body's physiological resources to release the trapped energy in tiny, controlled doses, working safely at the edge of the activation. Recovery focuses on activating the body's innate resources to finally execute an active, successful escape. When we apply this biological truth to modern relationships, we see why couples get locked into dysregulation spirals. Their bodies are treating mundane arguments as unfinished escapes. In these spirals, the seeker pursues their partner because their biological flight toward connection never reached a state of safety. The bunker freezes because immobility was the only survival strategy their nervous system had available. The sanctuary sequence, recognize, regulate, relate, is a framework designed to safely lift the lid on this exact nervous system pressure cooker during a conflict. The turning point occurs in the regulate step. This is the moment where the body is finally given permission to complete the physical defensive action it has been waiting to finish. True relational peace, the inner sanctuary, becomes possible when we allow our bodies to complete the physical cycle of survival.